You can give it another 2 minutes and then Sarah can kick us off, like at 6:30, 6:31. So 2 to 3 minutes. Let's hope my puppy stays quiet. So I keep darting my eye at, but it's good right now. I guess you all can give the instructions and then you ready, Sarah, to kick it off? Okay. You all can give the instructions, please, and then Sarah will kick us off. Thank you.
Yeah, first. If this is your first time joining us virtually, it knows that you are currently muted and everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except the committee chairs and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following the presentations, the chairs will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to reactions icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button, not the waves or thumbs up, as those will disappear. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in on the phone, it's *+9 to raise hand and *+6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the chairs call on you. The chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions to the chairs. They will not see the chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you'll need to go to participants sections where you'll find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we might not be able to see you. You can chat me, I'm here for support.
Great. Thank you so much, Rose. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the September 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Social Justice Committee of Community Board 8 Manhattan. For today's meeting, excuse me, Sandra and I thought it would be a nice opportunity to do a retrospective of how the committee originated the topics that we've tackled in the past and to get feedback on what your interests are for future meetings. And so thank you so much for everybody who's joined us today. And um, and I'll offer my co-chair an opportunity to say anything before we begin.
Yes, greetings again, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. And let's hopefully we can have a nice meeting and get some input from you all. This is one of the reasons we wanted to do this and also recap some of the great work we have done together since the inception of this committee. Thank you. Back to you, Sarah.
Thanks. Alrighty, I'm going to share my screen. Unless actually Rose, Rose, would you be able to share?
Yeah, you're now able to share. I can also share for you.
You know what? Since I'm taking notes, it might be easier if you share
All right.
so I can see. Yeah, thank you so much. So the Social Justice Committee was started in December of 2020, and Sandrea and Anthony Cohn were the original co-chairs of the committee. I joined in 2021. And so at the inception of the committee, one of the things that Sandrea and Anthony did was to have a conversation about the committee purpose and what they were there to do and how they were going to move about their work. And so this slide is taken directly from the minutes of the December 7th meeting on the um, purpose and aims of the committee. And so we have increased internal participation, possible inclusion of social justice issues in the annual district needs statement, coordinating with other committees on programs of mutual concern, suggesting that each Manhattan Community Board establish similar committees if they hadn't already done so. And I think both Sandra and I have had conversations with Manhattan Borough president staff about that. Examine all committee actions through the lens of social justice. And at the time, the example was it was e-bikes. So so as much as there was opposition to e-bikes, that a social justice lens would have offered a perspective that an outright ban would impact the delivery persons and that and a disproportionately lower earning group of people who need the e-bikes in order to do their job. And that the committee should remain focused on change and what we can call on for reform, and invite relevant speakers to address topics of concern and structure future meetings on focused topics. So just wanted to share that in advance in case there are ideas about or feedback about what has worked or what folks think can be revised for the future. And then Rose, if you could advance the slide, please. Thank you. And so since inception, these are all of the meetings that we've had and the topics that we've had on the agenda and the topics that were presented at our past meetings. And so using this as a guide, I wanted to make space for us to have a conversation about what folks have liked about these topics. And then if these topics jog any ideas for you about items that we can focus on in the future. Um, Rita, I just had in my notes that in the past you suggested that we invite Greystone Bakery or some other, or maybe have a panel of businesses um, that hire people who are formerly incarcerated. And and so that actually came up in my notes as I was preparing for today. And so those are the kinds of thoughts, ideas that we're looking forward to. So I'd like to open the floor unless my co-chair wanted to offer some thoughts first.
Yeah, I'll say a few. Um, So when you think about social justice, I have personally coined myself a social justice crusader for many years. Social justice impacts us all, no matter our income or our race, ethnicity, or who we define to be. Social justice can impact us all, and it does impact us all. Social justice issues, I would say. And it's really good to be on the forefront and know what's going on in your community and beyond, and see where you can fit in and decide on what you want to attack, like food disparities. There's a lot of community fridges out throughout the city. There's more since COVID has happened. Food insecurity has always existed, but it has exacerbated. That's an issue that's social justice is under that umbrella, to help people make ends meet, and so many other things from incarceration and the needs that they need and people coming home. We've done so many great topics. Health disparities is another idea and thoughts, things like that. So, and there's other tensions that are just going on throughout not just our district alone, our city, our United States, and this country. You see a lot of things going on. And sometimes you want to make a change, and sometimes just being a part of a committee like this, helping to steer the conversation, helping to look for solutions and so forth is really key for a better society for us all. So once again, I thank everybody for joining, and we can, if Sarah doesn't have another thing to say behind me, we can open the floor for any questions and or input, or if you see this, we could leave this up. If you see some topics we might have tackled and um, you're interested in it. And you could always look at everything on YouTube again because it's still there on CB8's YouTube page. You could actually find all of these meetings because they are recorded. So we open the floor to you all to give input. And welcome Stan and Morris and of course Rita, one of our great members. And I think we have where's our public members here, right? Wendy, is Wendy? Okay, yes, and Wendy. I can't see from the screen. Sorry. And Wendy, hello, Wendy, our public member. So you can raise your hand and they'll unmute you if there's anything that you all think of, you want to talk about for us to work on. Wendy, call on Wendy.
Hi, I wanted to say hi and thank you, Miss Andre and Miss Sarah, for hosting this again and for putting together truly an amazing set of programs that were very enlightening. And I think there are two things I wanted to say. So many that are memorable. I can't go through the whole list. It'll take the whole night. Updates would be really interesting and wonderful. What has happened with the health issues from the doctor from Mount Sinai? Have we seen improvements? If not, why? If there are legislative initiatives that would support the work he's doing, where are they now and what can we do to further them? In the facial recognition, how is that being used? What are the you get the drift here of all of these really insightful seminars basically that you have presented. Where are we and what more can we do? So that is one thing. And a very minor point, but it's a small economic one. New York City had some legislation that prohibited businesses from requiring credit cards only. or debit cards, plastic, and that they would accept cash. And in fact, there was a case against an ice cream store. I can't think of it. Llewellyn, maybe? You might know. And they had to accept cash, which I guess they had not wanted to do for their own accounting purposes. But for many people who are at risk and who don't have that kind of documentation, aren't involved with bank accounts and such, they may not have that. They may not want, if they're using an EBT card, they may not want their coffee purchase registered on that. They may feel whatever stigma they feel wherever they are. And it is a form of discrimination that I think is profound and affects people who are economically at risk in great number. And I was just so surprised because there's some new coffee shops that have opened, and they demanded plastic, and eventually some of them put in their own machine where you would put in money and then get a card that they would then accept, which is anonymous. And I suppose that sort of solves it, except that I don't believe it gives you change for your purchase. And for people who are financially at risk, that is leaving $1 on a card and leaving $1 on another card. That might be your meal. So I don't know how we address that, but that might be something that we want to look at the softer side of what doesn't look like such hard discrimination, but is really can be weaponized against people at risk. And I also wanted to just give my appreciation to both of you and to all here. I'm so grateful for this committee and the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, and we appreciate you and being a public member and all of your input. I'll speak to the Dr. Roger Flores follow up on that with the NYCHA reform. So, of course, he's still available to residents and forums and so forth. And I believe the public advocate had him speak at one of his forums. I believe it was in August. I didn't make it, but he did have him speak. And the irony of it is, in July, he was supposed to be at our coalition, the Homesizers Coalition monthly meeting, but he was out of town, so he had to cancel. So he is going to come physically to one of the Homesizers Coalition meetings and talk to residents and share information and keep us abreast of, some things that's dealing with the impact of our health and so forth while living in public housing. So that's pretty much an update. Has things changed in NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority? Not much. Residents are still living in not so great conditions. But there are people like Stan Morris, who's on the call, and other activists and organizers that are independently still working with residents. We did have the coalition, myself and Stan, we did have some success this year. We actually helped a resident. We worked with him. We also have a one night podcast. Went in his home and filmed a resident that was living in, I won't say his name, but he was living in a hazardous studio apartment in Holmes Towers with his wife and two little small children. And we fought tooth and nail, and from emails and just all the things that we've done, he finally got his transfer. But that NYCHA was so adamant in giving him a place outside of the community where he's raised his kids, started his life with his wife, because when he got the studio, it was just him. And I told him, if you can hang in there, I'll fight tooth and nail with you. And we supported him. And we had a success story this year. He's moved into a 2-bedroom. And that's, something to applaud, because this man was suffering with his family. And he's actually from Morocco and, trying to make his life here. So that's just an update of some of the work, we do, and ongoing beyond just these meetings, and just as a social justice crusader, this is the work. Not just housing too. Stan and I are working on something too. I won't say it really, but we're working with a nursing home. I'll just say that. That's all. Some nursing home residents, and I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so that's an update regarding NYCHA. So it's an ongoing process. I don't know if Sarah wants to speak to the other topic that was raised by Wendy.
Oh,
Rita.
I had a question for you,
Mhm.
Sandra. When when the resident whose family you advocated for, when they moved into the 2 bedroom,
Mm.
did NYCHA move someone straight into a studio, or did they take the time to remediate the apartment?
I actually, that I'm not aware of if the apartment is rented out yet. Oh, let me backtrack. That was last year. Sorry, excuse me. That was last year it happened. We had a success last year. I apologize. We're in a whole nother year. It was last year. I just thought of everything. It was last year. But what they did do was there was a 2 bedroom down the hall from him that was vacant for well over a year. And I knew it, and I brought that up to the executives and everything. And they did not move that family in there. They moved them out of the building into the back building. And they gave that 2 bedroom while he was still in the studio, struggling and having issues. They gave that 2 bedroom to the resident association president as an office, which to me violates HUD's regulations because HUD says if they don't have a room, they can have an apartment. They already had a room. So they actually have a room and now they have an apartment, and they could have moved their family there. So, and it still took them probably about 2 months. So that helped the case. That really helped the case by them doing that and messing up like that. And maybe, between that and me arguing about that but if that apartment is rented, I will have to ask somebody. But yeah, I mean, once somebody's out, it's up to them to really get it, fixed up, and it should be fine. But it all depends on how slow they move. And just another thing, a segue since we're talking about NYCHA, um, there's a young lady named Eleanor Bumpers who has the namesake of Eleanor Bumpers who was killed by police in a home, a NYCHA resident, a senior. If anybody remembers, I believe it might have been 1985. Her face was all over the news. And if you remember who she is, you can close her eyes and see her. But her granddaughter, Eleanor Bumpers, is her granddaughter. And her granddaughter lives in forest houses. And the apartment that she was in had lead. So I'm just bringing this story up because you can just understand how NYCHA is. They moved her out of a lead-filled apartment into another apartment, but they never checked the new apartment for lead or abated it. And she was in a second apartment with lead. So this goes to the incompetence. So it's a lot. So it's really a lot. That's all I can say, but it's really a lot. I'll ask somebody because I know people on that floor is that apartment rented out as of yet. Yeah. So, but nothing's done quick. So there's a lot of vacancies also in NYCHA. A lot of apartments still need repairs and stuff like that. So we call it like warehousing apartments for whatever reason. And former council member Ben Kalos had, what talked about, I think it was an article or something about warehousing throughout the city because a lot of unhoused people can be housed in these apartments, not just in NYCHA, but private buildings too. They're warehousing apartments. So for whatever reason. And I don't know why NYCHA is doing it when they have a great list and we have a huge unhoused community that needs somewhere to stay. So I don't know if I kind of answered it, but I'll find out though. Okay. Anything else, Sarah, about the second if you if you have any updates off your off the top of your
Um,
head?
yeah, I can give a quick update about facial recognition technology. Um, I think in 2023, President Biden issued an executive order on policing, and among the topics that were addressed in that executive order was a call to do a study on facial recognition and how it can be used, what guardrails need to be in place, and how it could be used in a more trustworthy way. And the National Academy of Sciences produced a report on it, and the GAO produced some reports on facial recognition. And most recently, I think about a few days ago, the US Human Rights Commission, I think, a major federal commission, put out a report about their concerns about the use of facial recognition and how it impacts constitutional rights. And so I think that in terms of policy making, that um, bans of facial recognition haven't worked at a state level. There are some localities that have those laws in the books in small towns and some municipalities, but statewide bans have not been passed. And so I think that Wendy made a great point about asking um, where are we with this? Because I think there's a lot of movement right now. And so I can put that on the list as as another topic where we can find someone uh, who sees the work at a national level, or maybe who's been working at across the country at the state level, to get more information about where they think um, advocacy work is going and where they are seeing policymaking going.
And that was an initiative the public advocate was working on, right? Was it his office?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's something, yeah.
right, right.
So, yeah, maybe we could follow up with them too to see, like, give them a little poke. What's going on? Yeah, yeah, okay. Thank you. You good, Rita? Miss Rita?
Hi, I just want to say thank you, Chris. I think you two have really taken on a difficult topic and you have done a lot with it. And it's very appreciated. Unfortunately, we have so much more to do. I personally would like to see us take a pet project like Stanley Isaac's Homes development and to see the difference between the market rate building that is at the corner on the same street on 92nd Street, right at York Avenue, that they get the apartments renovated and changed quickly because a market rate person is coming in. And we have so many people, so many families in shelters, of which we pay more to keep them in a shelter than we would than a market rate family pays to live nicely, in a nicer place. So I would like to see us taken on and not stay within the city. I mean, the city is notorious for doing nothing except words. I'm old. I'm tired of empty words. That if we made Stanley Isaac's Homes a pet project and let the world know that there are 20 unoccupied apartments. I've just made that number up. Maybe there are more. That there are apartments that are uninhabitable, that had leaks and have mold and have whatever it is. People who have money, if they could go out and buy plaster and mitigate some of the problems, but there are many people who can't. And if nothing else, if we could move 20 families out of a shelter and into permanent housing and get those children into schools, we have done a tremendous amount to help social justice. And that's where I would love to see this committee go. Not, that doesn't mean that if other topics come up, that we don't address them. But I think that I would like to see us have a focus in our community, the focus in our community for the people who live in the community and who deserve to live better, but who don't because of the color of their skin. And it's the same way. So that's my passion. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. The building you're talking about, is it the one with the waterfall right next to us where the ASPCA used to be?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And they do have market rate and also Section 8, I believe, in that building as
No,
well.
no, not
Oh,
that building. The
the one-
building
okay.
at the corner of 92nd Street, the northwest corner of 92nd Street and York Avenue, right across the street from the bus stop, that's where Mr. Fentner was. It may be, I don't know if it's his building or not, but we're
It's on the
going
same side as, excuse me, it's on the same side as the public housing development? Is it on that same side of the street or no?
right on the same
Right,
side of the
so
street
it
as,
does. Yeah, it has the waterfall. That's where the ASPCA used to be. That's the same building that you're talking about.
but even if they have Section 8,
Right, yes.
they don't,
Mhm.
they don't have, why don't we have,
Right,
it's not going to stop us.
yeah.
How many uninhabitable, I mean, my heart still goes out to a woman who came from Stanley Isaacson Homes.
Mhm.
And it's winter time. Now the weather is getting cold. We will hear that these people have no hot water and no heat.
Right, yeah,
Every year we hear it.
yeah,
And we sit back and say, oh, it's terrible. It really is. It's disgraceful.
yes,
Disgraceful. And it's in our community.
right,
I think if we win in our community, then other communities will follow. But
right,
there are so many homeless families, children who are living in shelters with people who absolutely don't shouldn't be there with kids. Um, so I would like to see, I mean, that's me. I would like to see social justice take this on, but I mean really take it on and to really show the world what the picture is. How people who are living there, that are living with holes in the ceiling and holes in the wall and getting into and out of, we had facial recognition. Maybe, I don't know, it's maybe a safer way of getting into your apartment and being safe. You have the right to be safe. The people in market rate housing are safe. I live in a market rate housing, but which was a former Section 8. We have many people of color in my building. They're fine. They could afford it. They get heat. They get water. They have maintenance. They call up. Something is broken. It gets fixed. Why is it any different in an absolute fantastic place? You are on gold ground at Stanley Isaacs. Absolutely. Why is it that we are not taking care of it and that we are not taking care of the people who are there? They have their committees to go to. Everybody has their own. I'm not saying that we take on everyone's problem, but we take on the housing for public housing, the proper housing for public housing, not the city. We already know that when the city gets money, it ends up in someone's pocket. It doesn't end up in a new boiler. And you know it, and I know it, And how many years do we have to know it? I feel guilty when I'm in a warm apartment and I hear and see that there is somebody just living a few blocks away and they're cold and they don't have hot water. And this is America. So that's my passion.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. And just the fact that public housing, NYCHA or PHAs, public housing authorities throughout the country, can receive funding from the city, state, and federal government. And it's still never enough because they don't allocate enough, or like you said, things go in people's pockets or whatever, mismanagement of funds and stuff. And who feels the brunt of it is the residents. You know, our elevators are 7 years, about 6 to 7 years old, still breaking down. The older elevators work better than the newer elevators. Why? It's
It,
horrible.
it, it depends on the equipment that's put in and who puts it in. I have an article buried in my computer, which would take a lot of digging, but I will find it. When many of the residents at NYCHA, right here in Stanley Isaacs, didn't have heat or hot water for months. And I remember one of the tenants coming down who had children, young children, that all she wanted to do was to bathe her children. She didn't want to cook, you know, a lavish meal. She wanted to bathe her children. She had to take them in the winter to an athletic place that had a bathroom, and she begged them if she could use their bathroom to wash her children around. And they let her. But that's what she had to do in the cold winter. I have an article that after a year where there was no heat and hot water in Stanley Isaacs' homes. And this reporter for the Times followed the person who was sent to fix the boiler. And so the reporter was chatting with the person and said, "What are you looking for when you're looking to fix the boiler?" And the person who was sent by NYCHA, all of them should go to jail, by NYCHA, said, "I don't know what I'm looking for. I never fixed a boiler before. And that's why your boilers don't work, because they're never fixed." So I am obviously need some medication to calm down, but I would love to see us take on something in our community that is in our community that we can effect some change for the better and make some people's lives better other than talking about it. It's just my suggestion. No. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. We make a note of it, and definitely we are happy that you are supporting and raising this topic. And we could also the coalition, Homes Access Coalition, we would love to have you come out to one of our meetings within this. It'll be in the Isaac Center the first Monday.
I am always available for a meeting, but I
Oh.
will tell you something.
It's hybrid too if you want to come on Zoom. But go ahead.
This city is not helping you and the people who live there. They don't care. They only care about being elected and made whatever they are. The commissioners know nothing about what they are a commissioner for. It's a political appointment. So let's forget the city. Let's go to HUD in Washington and tell them what we want to do. It's an election year. Let's take advantage of it. and see if we can get up a team that knows how to fix a boiler, a team that knows how to plaster a wall or a ceiling. And when was the last time people were painted? You know, I'm going to stop. I could go on for hours. As you can see, I'm pretty pissed.
No, it's perfectly understandable. And like I said, I'm not just inviting you, and I'm also inviting out Sarah and Wendy. Wendy has came to events that we've done there. So maybe we can make a plan, and you could come to one of our meetings the first Monday of every month, with the exception if it's a holiday, we move it to the next Monday. If we're having a planned meeting, which you're welcome to come, we have a guest list for a resident list and a guest list always out for people to sign. Actually, the chair now of Community Board 8 came out to one of our meetings and spoke when she wasn't chair, she was what's that, first vice chair, but she came out to talk about the community board, to raise the awareness of the community board to the residents. So it'll be good to have some community board members at the meeting, and we'll give you some time to talk, and you could hear some of our concerns. And we do have guests come out to observe and hear the residents firsthand what's going on. So we appreciate that and would love to have you there.
Please
And
let me know when it is. Send me an email. I'm 85. I don't remember everything.
that's okay.
Thank
Yeah, I will certainly do that. And we look
Thank-
forward to you joining one of our meetings, or as many as you choose to come to. You too,
No.
Sarah, and you too, Miss Wendy. Anybody can come, because this is when Miss Rita just gave us a CTA, a call to action. So yeah, really. So thank you so much.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
Next up is Mr. Stan Morris.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
All right. One of the issues that concerns me is the issue of sickle cell anemia. My son has it now. My mother died from it, and my grandmother died from it. So it's a very issue is very personal to me, and it's in all communities, and it goes very much unnoticed and untalked about. In the most recent case with my son, he's been in the hospital now well, he just got out. He was in the hospital for 4 months in 5 different hospitals. And it was the most horrifying experience he or I have ever had dealing with this disease, other than losing my mother and, of course, my grandmother. So I think the community really needs to know that there's huge disparities between how one hospital deals with sickle cell and how another hospital deals with sickle cell. And for y'all that may not know, it's a disease that affects primarily people of color, and people of color in our own community. A lot of them don't even know about it as well. You have folks who are walking around and may have the trait and don't know it. In my case, my son had sickle cell. I knew I had it because my mother had it, but his mother had the trait and didn't know. So I think sickle cell awareness is something that really should be brought up in your community and in all communities. And beyond that, the healthcare disparities that those with sickle cell deal with, and how the hospitals deal with them, and treat them almost like they're drug addicts, which is what my experience was watching them deal with my son. So contrary to what people believe, Black people do not have a high level of pain tolerance. We're not all addicts. We just want to be well, get out the hospital, and live our lives. And I saw in my son's case that was almost impossible, where he almost died. I mean, literally, so it is really that serious. And I think a lot of folks in the community should be made aware of it, because folks are dying in silence. And I would like to be a part of that. Anything y'all plan that has anything to do with sickle cell awareness, I'm 100% on board. I'm committed to that issue, and I want to be a part of it.
Wow. Thank you, Stan, for your transparency and sharing. And we definitely that is something we were considering, and we're trying to get either a doctor, some person to really come, an expert to speak about it. And we also want a panelist like yourself and or your son Malcolm, who I know if he's willing, but at least if you can come and speak about it as a parent, and somebody has a trait, so you don't have any bouts though. You don't go through it like your son does at all,
Right.
right?
I don't, but there are people with the trait that do.
Right, yeah,
So as someone that has a trait, I can speak on maybe I'm not
right,
experiencing that, but I know people that have it, the trait, and they're having full blown sickle
yeah,
cell crises. So yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And it's, a lot of people don't know the life expectancy too. It's scary because it's low. It's a very low number. Like 30, 40 or something like that. 40 is that's, but people can go beyond, yes, but that's scary. My mom was in the hospital, 2013, no, 2014. It was in, it was in March before she passed, but she didn't have sickle cell. But it was a girl in the bed next to her, a very young girl, um, in her 20s. My mom passed in 2014 and she passed like a year or two later. She didn't even get to see 30. I mean, it's sad. And she was, in so much pain, but she was in pain and she was helping my mother because my mother was an elder. So just, what the families have to think of and deal with, and even the person that has it. And we need to work on a cure, right? And better treatment. Because I sit on the community advisory board of Mount Sinai. We had a specialist there, and hopefully we can bring him into one of our meetings if he's available. Um, he was speaking about there are some cures out there, but one of the cures is literally like $1 million. And
Yeah,
one of the side effects is you can die from taking this cure. So it's like, who wants to
absolutely.
play Russian roulette with their life? I mean, that's that's not a, I don't, maybe somebody will, but and if you can afford it, right? Or if your insurance will cover it or however you can get it. But he spoke about that. And then he spoke about the bouts. And he was basically like, oh, the average person is 3 to 4 bouts. And I was like, I raised my hand and I was like, no, I know someone's son that's in and out constantly, more than 5. And I even text you that night, Stan,
Right.
just the number, a roundabout number to put it at the table. So it's not a one size fit all when they're battling that. And there
At all.
needs to be awareness, and yes, and families need to know if they have the trait. Like Stan said, there are people walking around that are unaware that they have it or that their family member had it. And then there's also maybe a mother might not want to even carry a child if she knows she's a carried and not to pass it on. So there's a lot of things, so we really need awareness of that. So thank you, Stan. We were going to work diligently and hard to get that a speaker, and as well as yourself, you will be part of that panel. You agree with that, Ms. Co-Chair Extraordinaire, right? You could be a panelist because it's good to hear the medical side, and it's also good to hear the patient and or caregiver side. So yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That's something that we want to work on. And you can put a pin in NYCHA too. You heard about NYCHA. So while you're on the floor, because you do a lot of advocacy for NYCHA. So please, what would you like to see as we're working with the residents? We're going to try to do something with the people of Holmes and Isaacs, as Ms. Reed said. And you, of course, you've been to some of our meetings. You're welcome. We need you there too as well. What you give your take on what you've seen and experienced to share to people. So it's not just me saying it because I live in it, but you've seen it as a former night.
Yes, Sandra and I have an organization, One Nights Advocates, and we get phone calls from nights residents all around the city who are dealing with mold, asbestos, lead, incredible situations. And they call us because when they call their elected officials, most of the time they're not around. So it ends up falling on us to kind of help these folks out. So what I would love to see is some sort of citywide collective movement of nights residents, to really bring the issue to the forefront because we're helping people on the individual level. And it's great. Like Sandra said, we help the deal. Well, I don't know his name. We help somebody in, in that development. And we've helped others in other development. But to really, really make a change, we got to get all of it collectivified and really bring it as a collective movement because they're all suffering. That's why we call ourselves One Nights. In all these nights developments, everybody's dealing with relatively the same thing. And it's horrible, it's tremendous, it's inhumane, and it's under the radar. The media don't really cover it. Elected officials don't talk about it. From the mayor to the governor on down to the city council and everyone else. So it's kind of like a underground issue that's a transfer of billions of dollars. of property into the hands of private individuals, in a sense. And it's incredible how this is not even getting a blip on the news. So any way that we can build a citywide movement to really bring this issue to the forefront is what we're working on.
Thank you, Sam.
You're
Thank you. Any input from you, Sarah? It's really
Uh,
real.
This is incredible feedback.
Yes.
And um I'm looking forward to thinking about ways to act on it. And one of the things I was thinking just now, Stan, um, is doing voter registration drives at NYCHA Housing to make sure that everyone who is registered to vote, because then you have a constituency that the elected officials need to answer to.
Yeah.
And then maybe um uh one NYCHA would be able to hold some sort of voter education kind of event where elected officials or maybe mayoral candidates come to have a debate or a discussion about housing. And you have so many people who are part of that constituency. And a powerful platform. And so that could be a step in ideas and work moving forward that can change things. Um, no, I think Sandrea and Stan, you would know this, but much better than I do. Um, are If someone wanted to donate in kind, like donations to do the construction work that can fix NYCHA housing, are they allowed to, or you're restricted at NYCHA to only services that NYCHA provides?
No one can really come out and actually do something. People have done things in their home, in their apartment themselves, they have. And they'll basically say, if you do, we're not gonna reimburse you. But I believe if they took them to court, they can get their money back. I've seen people get rid of their floors. There's a lady, she passed away. And I was just amazed because she had, God rest her soul, Miss Linda, she had ceramic floors. So her tiles were removed, and she also had wood floors in the house. One of the homes I've been in, and I was just shocked. Um, the work she put in there. So she didn't have like, and I guess she always had somebody to help out. And there are other people that have gotten up and did some things themselves. But I remember the former superintendent said, um, if a resident, because a resident did ask, and I was present, well, I'll do it. I'll fix it myself. And it was like, we're not going to reimburse you. But it's easy for him to say that. But when you take him to court, you show the receipts, I'm sure the judge will say yes, because you didn't do the repairs. So that's one thing. And then we also have a lady in 405 on the first floor. I brought this up to city council members and so forth before, and I guess it's going to go on the record now. There's an elderly lady. Yeah, I guess she might be a little older than me, maybe elderly. I'll say elderly lady, wheelchair bound, on the first floor, cannot leave her apartment because she cannot walk. And we need a ramp in that building. So that's another thing we could look into. They need a ramp for this woman to come out her apartment. They did say, oh, they will give her apartment in the building, but she doesn't want, why should she have to be uprooted? And she doesn't want to live on another floor. She's comfortable looking out a window. So when she has medical appointments, she has to be carried out. Can you believe that? But this lady's living on the first floor in one of the NYCHA buildings over here. I'm not gonna say the building, but we have 5 buildings, two developments, and she's on the first floor. And it's just horrible to know. I've known her, I've spoken to her, I've advocated for her. I've met a group that was willing to construct and make that change and make a ramp there. But I was like, you can get the funding, but they're not gonna, we need them to do it. They have to do it. So what things people do in the apartment is one thing, but that's some type of construction that needs to be done. And she's on the first floor. Who knows? Maybe they could make something that come out her apartment on the other end that won't even affect the public space. They could probably do something like that for her. And that's a good idea. I mean, it's going to be a difference, but maybe if they take a window and do, I don't know, but I'm sure if there's a will, there's a way. And she doesn't want to move to another floor. So,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
but I just wanted to bring that up. And I see Miss Rita hand. I'm gonna call in a second. I know you spoke about voter registration, so I agree with that. And I will say the coalition, we always have voter registration information, our meetings and our food distributions, but that's just 2 times, when we do things. So I agree, we need it on a broader scale, and more known, because there are people that aren't registered to vote, and people have their reasons why they don't want to vote too. So, but yeah, I agree on that. But yeah. So, but thank you. Anything else, Sarah, if I call on Miss Rita?
Um, and then just the another idea, which you may have already done, and just repeating something that others have already taken action on, um, would be to get an itemized list of every single apartment.
Mm.
So if all of the residents forward or either, it's done on a piece of paper or we create a Google form to generate a list of all the work that needs to be done, that we can begin sending that to our elected officials. We can have it'll be like a punch list that we can make public to demonstrate the work that is or is not being taken care of for the residents.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And want to pin something else because I had to jot that down. You spoke about the candidates, right? A forum or something. So the coalition did, during COVID, we had when city council, when Trisha ran and so forth, that year, we had all the candidates on our forum. And we hosted, and Wendy's son had asked a question and so forth. So we had a very robust, and some of the executives from the Isaac Center was there to listen, and some residents and stuff. So we did hold a forum, a Zoom virtual forum, and heard from all the candidates, even one that well, it was Rebecca and what's his name? There's another well, it's a couple. They had 3 candidates from CB8 on there too. So, but it was yeah, it was nice. So we have done that back then. We haven't done nothing recently, but yeah, those are very good, because the residents, if they join, whether it's physical or on a Zoom, it's easy to do. They get to learn about the candidates and hear questions and stuff, and can possibly pose questions. So yes, that's very helpful. And I would say too, former Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney has done caucus forums when she was running her no, when it was the mayor's race. And she had me come out to ask questions physically and virtually, which was good, to some of the mayoral candidates. So, which gives a NYCHA resident, throw a question to them. Adams was one of them. So yeah, I think I'll go up to Miss Rita now. We're zooming on. Miss Rita? Good ideas though, Sarah. We're gonna get stuff done.
I don't know if I'm unmuted, am I?
You are. Mhm.
Okay. Why every entrance to every NYCHA building should be ADA accessible?
Yeah.
We are an aging population and people are getting older. I see more people walking with walkers
Yep.
and people in wheelchairs than I have ever seen before, or walking with canes. we can get to, I don't know what the agency is, the American Disabilities Agency or whatever, and let them know about this woman and other women and men who are in public housing who can't get out
Yep.
because there is no ramp. We're not asking for the Taj Mahal. We're only asking for a ramp. And we have to make it a public program. We have to make it that this exists. We, as a community board, are not allowed to meet in any place that does not have ADA accessible. We have a member on a wheelchair. And every place, every building should be ADA accessible wherever you live. So that, I think, is an easy thing to do. I don't know the agencies to get in touch with, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, New York
And,
City disabilities. Yeah, well, we can, yeah, there's a
and
few. Yeah.
at the same time, we will let our city, state, and federal people know that this exists. All
Yeah.
three of them, because I don't want to hear that they don't have money there. I don't. I'm tired of not having money, and then we open the newspaper, and $65 million has been squandered. $650 million has been squandered. So it's a license to steal, to give any money to people who don't have the best intentions. And the only way that we know that is that we have to see a jackhammer putting in that ramp. So
Yeah.
that's just a suggestion. I
No,
want
it's
that
great.
lady get out of her apartment.
Yeah. And she's so humble. She goes, I don't mind, but no, you should be able to go out with, not be carried out your apartment.
Everybody should be allowed to go out. It's
Exactly.
right
Yeah.
in here.
Yeah.
Everyone's right. But
And
we have stopped her right. So how
yeah,
do we make
I
it better?
agree. Yeah. And I believe we did contact Julie's office about it, but now she with the redistricting, she's no longer on city council, but back then she was. So I don't, I could probably reach out and see where they ended at and maybe the new one or
Who is
and
your
further.
city council?
We have Ayala. So yeah. But we can go beyond that too. Because some of the nitrous X no, because it was brought up to them. So it just goes on deaf ear. But we have to make more noise for her because it's just unfortunate. In your latter days, you should not have to be confined in your apartment like that.
Nobody should.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Wendy?
Hi, thank you. So many ideas you guys have sparked, and about the ramp, that really is outrageous. I remember my both of my parents at the end were wheelchair bound, and I had to get them to an appointment in Midtown, and I pulled my car up to a building to get them both out of the car. And some construction workers were scowling at me as I pulled up because they wanted the spot for themselves. And then they saw both of my parents and they scrambled to get wood, and they made ramps for me, temporary ramps, so that I could get my parents up on the sidewalk. There is no excuse for not putting something in that is, reasonably stable. And I'm wondering if we reached out to some reporters, consumer reporters like Better Get Vaccaro or whoever's local, plus Local 79. They make a big point about wanting to be employed and that they are for the community and all. We'll let them show it. It wouldn't take them very long or very many resources for them to put in a ramp. And that is a ramp that will help all people with physical disabilities, plus moms and carriages. I also was a mom with a double
Yeah.
stroller. And, you know, that's something that we should also embrace since our area loosely has the largest number of seniors and the largest number of moms with strollers. So, and all need to be supported. Uh, and I think, you know, it's completely outrageous. As for self-help, I mean, it's wonderful to be able to put in your own floor, and that is
Mhm.
not favored under the law, as
Right.
those who have been through either law school or landlord tenant court know. And there are some legitimate reasons for that. Some very well-meaning people might be trying to put in some improvement that actually causes building damage or some crisis to a neighbor or a ceiling crumbling on your neighbor below or something like that. So there are reasons why that may not be right. But I have seen myself in landlord tenant court that judges are very interested to know about housing conditions. And so maybe collectively there is something that could be done. I don't know if there's, you know, an attorney that you like that you'd reach out to come and speak about it or to organize that. But and I do know that the city cut back actually on free attorneys for people to use who are in a crisis situation. But judges do usually ask if, for example, if there's a rent stoppage, was there a condition that wasn't met, and do you have documentation? So
Right.
that's an important factor. And about voting, I don't know if we're reaching out to high schools to get people to register in time and to begin to inform and put posters up about early voting, and especially for people who are homebound or who find it difficult to get to the polls, what are options that we can do to assist them, either with, you know, early mail-in balloting or bringing their ballots into the polls or getting them there physically. And I do believe that for the last election, there may have been a bus that took voters. I'm remembering like it was like 130, something like that. That to get people to the polling place safely and back. Maybe to have contests between the buildings as to who has the more, you know, the most voters, and have a pizza party, something social because it's a community. I don't know, but I think it's essential to get out the vote. And Miss Andre, you ran such an amazing forum. And thank you for letting my son ask the environmental question. He did ask all of the candidates if they would commit to an absolute 210-foot height cap because there's an environmental concern. Because greenhouse gases are released at a disproportionately exponentially high rate above that level, and also causes ground pollution because there's an interaction between the tall buildings. And it affects our communities, our workers, our students, our residents of color more than it does others. And it affects everybody. And one thing we are also not addressing is there's recent environmental data that Manhattan is sinking. Isn't that, you know,
Mm.
like an amazing stat that we're sinking because of the weight of the new super tall buildings that are being put up all over the city. And guess where it's going to affect most, like in to start with, before we're all swimming, is like the 96th Street area, because that's the place that got flooded out before when we had Superstorm Sandy, which wasn't even a hurricane, which wasn't under the sinking conditions of Manhattan. So while they're building a pretty berm around Lower Manhattan, what are they doing for others? And so that's something where I think it's going to be hard to pinpoint the person who could tell us what the city is doing, because we know they're not, and who is responsible for making that happen. But we have a number of people who are stepping up as mayoral candidates, and wouldn't that be interesting to ask them to put that out as a public question? Thank you for letting me pontificate, but those are my thoughts about elections and about housing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just to pinpoint some things, I took some notes. There is a group called 700 Strong that are NYCHA residents, majority of them that has went to the mayors, I believe this mayor and the former mayors, to fix NYCHA. They are skilled tradesmen and they can fix NYCHA, and they have never like really used them. So that's one group that we should probably connect with again. Well, ourselves, I know them, but maybe connect with them and hear them out, and maybe help get them back at the table to get the work done, because they can do the work. Us as the coalition, for those who know and don't know, remember we sued NYCHA December 13th of 2019. So we actually still have our lawyers that we work with, Take Root Justice. So they we have access to them still because of the case, even though it went mute and so forth, and we still do work with them, which is pretty great. And also, because of our lawsuit, it was stipulated we meet with the compliance unit every biweekly, so every 2 weeks. We have a virtual meeting with the an executive from the compliance unit, and I believe it's this week coming up. We have a walkthrough with one of them. We've done it before, so we'll be able to point out some things. So I'll basically take him to the lady's apartment, see if she's home, and maybe he can meet her and get it like that. So get that done. And so because of the work we do and the advocacy, we advocate for the residents, and because we sued NYCHA, besides the other work that I personally do, we've been able to get a lot of stuff done, but it's still bad over here. No matter what great, and then there's also resident councils, resident associations, they have their work, they do what they do, but we're a separate entity that's combined to help both developments, and we do a lot. We do a lot, and we get things done, but it's so much work to be done. And lastly, someone from the Adler's office did come to our meet and greet we had. I think we did it in June. So I have to contact her again because there's money that can be allocated directly to our development for something. And that's another item, and we could bring up that item. And we also have the issues with the boiler, like the hot water that was brought up. They just keep repairing and repairing, and now also when it is working, I have scalding hot water, scalding hot water, which is not good neither. And then also when the heat is working, we have too much heat. So they never can get it right when it is working right. That's another problem. So we really need some efficient workers in NYCHA to get this done. But that's it on me. Anybody else before we go? Sarah, anything before we move onward to the end of this great meeting?
Nothing more from me. Just really grateful that everyone came to take the time to share their thoughts and to come up with these great ideas for future work for the committee. So thank you so much for the brainstorm, for the ideas, and we're just so grateful to continue to have your partnership in this work.
Yes. I said a lot. I said a lot too, and I'm not going to say any more. I just thank you for everybody that came out. This is as small as this group is. It was just very robust, and everybody brought up good topics, shared good information, and I believe you all will be a part of a movement that is needed to do the work. Everybody in this forum right here, this Zoom meeting. Um, has great ideas and also has gifting to help with some things. So we're going to get a lot done, and we could also report back when we have some victories as well. So with that said, any old business? Give y'all some music. Dun, 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 dun. No. Any new business? New business, new business, new business. Okay, can I have a motion to close it? Rita, second? Can we have a second? Okay, there we go. Sarah, thank you, everybody. Good night. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you. CB8. Bye. Good night.